एक सेकंड बस मैं पीपीटी खोल दूं। Good evening, Stapna. How are you? Good evening, Ishan. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, all the online students who are present here. All right. So today's topic is coral reef and coral bleaching, and today we'll try to understand this topic in detail. What is coral bleaching and coral reef? Now, what is the importance of this topic? If you see the PYQs of geography optional, then you will definitely see that there are a number of questions from the coral reef and coral bleaching. This is not only important for the prelims, it is also important for the mains, it is also important for your geography optional. So you have to understand that this topic, you can't just do it superficially, you have to understand it in detail, right? And having said so, if you will try to understand the various sectors, for example, not only just doing the superficially the topic, but also understanding why certain things are happening, it would become very essential, it will become very easy for you to understand that why coral reef and coral bleaching is how they are associated. First, you have to understand that you cannot understand the coral reefs without understanding the coral polyps. Okay, corals hai kya, that you have to understand first, then only you will be able to understand coral reef. ठीक है, कोरल रीफ को समझने के लिए कोरल पॉलिप्स को समझना जरूरी है कि what are their characteristics, how they perform, at what temperature they can thrive. All of these conditions are necessary to understand in order to understand the point that how the coral reefs are being formed, and then we will be able to understand the coral bleaching. Obviously, we will also introduce some of the theories associated with the coral reef formation, because this topic we are doing in a geography optional. The context that we have taken is, the perspective that we have taken is from the geography option, so therefore we have to dive deep into the topic. But you have to understand one more thing, that whenever you're writing the coral reefs and the coral bleaching, there you have to understand that drawing the diagram is also important. Therefore, I will try to include the maps in our understanding. Okay. Now, starting with the first thing, what are coral reefs, right? And how I will understand the coral reefs? By understanding the coral polyps first. Now, coral polyps are your animals, right? They are flashy what? Anemone. Anemone. Now, where are they found and how they look like? Can you see the image over here? Right? This beautiful image that you can see over here is the image of the coral reefs, right? It is an image of the coral reefs, coral polyps which are being formed. Now, how are they formed? Can you see the different colors also associated with them? There is a blue color, red color, yellowish color, greenish color. All of them are associated, and you would have seen in many of the images also. For example, in Australia, Great Barrier Reef is there. You can definitely find such images over there. Okay, so how these colors are being associated with this particular species? Now, these coral polyps. What do you mean by polyp? Polyp is a single species that we are taking now. It looks like a strand, okay, and then they do exist in colonies. Always you will find them in colonies. These colors that have been given to them is because of another microorganism which is associated with them, that we call it as zooxanthellae. Okay, so coral polyp cannot exist. The coral polyp cannot exist without zooxanthellae. And why I said so? Understand, this coral polyp is forming a symbiotic relationship with zooxanthellae. This is a microorganism. This is a microorganism which can produce its own food with the help of sunlight. It can go through the process of photosynthesis. Now, since it can go under the process of photosynthesis, it is serving a great utility to coral polyps. Why? Because coral polyps are taking food from the zooxanthellae. They are dependent on it for its nutrients. And on the other hand, coral polyps are providing to the zooxanthellae shelter and support. Right? So there is a symbiotic relationship which have been formed between both of them. And hence, because they can produce the food, they are going under the process of photosynthesis, they are providing them the nutrients, so they are giving them different colors as well. Therefore, color blue, green, violet, you can see all sorts of color in the corals, right? Now, these corals which are formed, they cannot just thrive and sustain in any kind of temperature or any kind of location. They do need a specific location, they do need a specific kind of a requirement in order to thrive. The first thing that they require is that the temperature should be moderate. It should be 18 to 21 degrees Celsius. More than that or less than that. If the water is too warm or the water is too cold, they won't be able to survive. They won't be able to survive. अगर water ज़्यादा warm होगा या ज़्यादा cold होगा, they won't be able to survive the conditions. Reason, what is the reason behind them? Because first thing is your photosynthesis is very important. If the water vapor is too cold, then the zooxanthellae would not be able to perform the functions. And if it will be too warm, the same condition would be applied. For example, if the solar radiations are coming, and that too happen in El Nino conditions, lot of times. El Nino conditions are associated with warming than usual. आपका जो टेम्परेचर है ओशंस का यूजुअल टेम्परेचर से ज्यादा वार्म हो जाता है, और जब ये ज्यादा वार्म हो जाएगा तो कोरल रीफ सर्वाइव नहीं कर पाएंगे. Right, they are highly sensitive to the extreme temperatures. Neither they can thrive in the cold water, neither they can nor in the warm water. So it's very difficult for them to thrive in both of these conditions. Therefore, the ideal condition for them is 18 to 21 degrees. And you would see that there are places where the two kinds of current are meeting. There is an intersection of the current. For example, warm oceanic current and cold oceanic current are coming together and intersecting at the same point. There also you will find the proliferation of the coral reefs. For example, if you see the area Nova Scotia, just look in the world map. This is the area. I know a lot of people have not done the currents, oceanic currents, but if in case you have done the ocean currents, तो इससे अच्छा तरीका कोई नहीं है इसको समझने के लिए. Reason being because you are having the two currents. If I'm talking about the currents, if somebody can understand this, that this is a warm current, warm ocean current. And what warm oceanic current means? One example I am taking Gulf Stream. And another one is Labrador. When they two meet, it creates a moderate temperature, right? Similarly, in the tropics also, you are having lot of places where this coral reef formation is very prominent. For example, in India only in Park Bay, you will find the coral reef formation. Therefore, how we have to understand it? I'll try to summarize it. फर्स्ट थिंग इज कि आपका जो कोरल रीफ्स है उसके लिए आपको क्या चाहिए? मॉडरेट टेम्परेचर. मॉडरेट टेम्परेचर 18 to 21 degrees Celsius. Most of the time coral reefs will formed in the tropical regions only. From 25 degree north to 25 degrees south. Most of the time they will be formed here only, maximum number. If you see the images of the coral reefs which are present over here, the distribution of the coral reefs around the world. तो आप ज़्यादा जो spots देखेंगे, you will see the concentration of the spots here in the tropical regions rather than in the temperate regions. So therefore it is a big evidence that yes, this is the most suitable condition for the coral reefs to thrive and survive, right? So आपको क्या चाहिए उसके अलावा? Shallow waters. See, you cannot find the coral reefs being formed at very deep waters, in the deep waters. Never. You will never find them. Reason क्या है उसका कि अगर इतना नीचे चला जाएगा तो how the coral will be able to get the support from the zooxanthellae, क्योंकि zooxanthellae को क्या चाहिए? Sunlight in order to survive. अगर उनके पास sunlight ही नहीं है, how they will be able to make their own food? And to have that sunlight, they would definitely would like to stay at the level where they can easily get the sunlight. Now you will ask, ma'am, can they survive on the sea surface? That is also a difficult condition for them to survive, right? Because lot of sedimentation would be there. Then they are quite sensitive with the very high sunlight. The rays, the intensity of the sunlight, if it goes too high, then also they would get affected by it. So the ideal condition for them is to survive, to stay at the shallow depths, at the shallow level, and then they can definitely survive. This is the optimum condition for them. Are you understanding? Any doubts till now? Yes, all the online students? Good. ठीक है. So अब कोरल रीफ्स के बारे में बात करते हैं. एक और पॉइंट जो इम्पोर्टेंट है यहाँ पे डिस्कस करना, इज इट ओनली अबाउट द टेम्परेचर और द डेप्थ? नो, इट इज मच मोर देन दैट. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, योर सेडिमेंट फ्री वाटर, आपका जो वाटर है वो भी क्या रहना चाहिए? सेडिमेंट फ्री. व्हाट इफ दैट आई ट्राई टू मेक और देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ रन ऑफ हैपनिंग ओवर दिस एरियाज. अगर बहुत ज्यादा रन ऑफ हो जाएगा तो भी क्या होगा? सेडिमेंटेशन के चांसेस ज्यादा हो जाएंगे. मड फ्री वाटर, that is the ideal condition for the coral to survive. Mud free water without any sedimentation. Sedimentation क्या करते हैं? Sedimentation smothers the corals. Smothers means they sit on the surface and smothers them, and then it becomes difficult for them to survive. इसलिए इम्पोर्टेंट है कि आपका सेडिमेंट फ्री, पोल्यूशन फ्री आपका वाटर होना चाहिए. तभी कहते हैं जो आपका ड्रेनेज है, जो आपका what do you call it as, that you're not draining too much of the water which is highly infiltrated with the nutrients, fertilizers, etc. If you are discharging the water having so much of the nutrients, then definitely it would affect the coral reefs. right? So coming back to the topic that we were discussing over here, we are discussing more about the coral reefs, right? कि coral reefs का formation अब कैसे होगा? Now corals have another property. Okay, now the corals have another property that they secrete lime. They secrete lime. And that's why we call it as calcareous deposits. For example, this is your coral. और ये coral क्या करेगा? It will form a shell around it. It will form a shell around it. And when it will form a shell around it, this shell is made up of what? Calcium carbonate. And why it has been formed in such a way? Because they secrete lime. And when they secrete lime, the structures are being formed. These coral reefs are being formed. Now you will ask, ma'am, how are they formed? जब आपको कैल्शियम कार्बोनेट रिलीज करना ही है, जब आपका स्केलेटन स्ट्रक्चर, ये जो आपका कैल्केरियस डिपॉजिट्स अगर आना ही है, तो किस वजह से, हाउ दे हैव दे कम ओवर हियर? So the point is, when the zooxanthellae dies, when the zooxanthellae dies because of the extreme conditions which have come in the particular location, then these go under the process which you call it as coral bleaching. इसको हम बोलते हैं क्या? We call this as coral bleaching. Coral bleaching का मतलब है that no longer zooxanthellae will be able to support this system. और ये stationary होते हैं, they look like a plant although they are not a plant, but they look like a plant. Why? Because इनकी सारी nutrient needs किससे पूरी हो रही थी? Zooxanthellae. They don't have to go anywhere. Zooxanthellae is providing them sufficient amount of nutrients and the food that they require. But the point is, once the zooxanthellae are not in a condition to provide food because of the pollution, because of not having the optimum temperature levels and the condition, तो क्या हो जाएगा? This would die. And when these would die, they would secrete what? Lime. They would also secrete carbonate materials, and then when they do so, there would be a formation of the shells over them. And these shells are so hard. I'm not talking about the one group. There are multiple group, millions of groups which are here. And then when they secrete and they form very hard shells, they can even turn into islands. For example, there are maximum islands which are formed on the coral reefs. For example, आपका लक्षद्वीप. लक्षद्वीप is made out of coral reefs. Lakshadweep is made of coral reefs. Maldives made of coral reefs. Kiribati, coral reef. Your Seychelles, which is an island of island of African continent, that is also coral reefs. So you can see how many continents. You can see that how many places, how many locations, how many countries have been formed, and whole country, your Maldives whole country, is situated and been formed out of coral reefs. Therefore, it is important to understand, and it is also important to conserve these coral reefs. Reason being, because although they are forming 0.1%, पूरे ओशन का ये सिर्फ 0.1% दिखता है, but they are supporting 25% of the aquatic ecosystem, which is a huge number. 0.1 आपका क्या है? 0.1 ही कोरल रीफ है आपका पूरे वर्ल्ड में. परसेंटेज डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की अगर बात करूं तो it is only 0.1%. See here, only 0.1% is the distribution of the coral reefs. But if you see the kind of the support they are giving to the aquatic system is huge. कितना 25% is the support that they are giving to the aquatic ecosystem. और अगर आपको हेल्थ चेक करना है एक्वेटिक इकोसिस्टम का, यू चेक द कोरल रीफ्स, बिकॉज कोरल रीफ्स is not only the structure, they are also supporting lot of lives. Very small species can come, for example fish spawning, they come and breed over there, they come and give the shelters. So there are many species, crustaceans, many species are coming over here and they are getting the shelter and the support, and the spawning has been done over there. Therefore, in that sense, definitely the number would reach to 25%. और अगर आपको किसी भी एरिया का कंडीशन देखना है, हेल्थ ऑफ एन एनी इकोसिस्टम, पैसिफिक ओशन का हेल्थ देखना है, आपको इंडियन ओशन का हेल्थ देखना है, you have to see what is the condition of the coral reefs. Two things you have to see. One is the whale. If the conditions of the whale in any of the ocean is good, तो आप समझ जाना कि पूरा ecosystem is good. And if the whales are not surviving well, if they are in a very poor condition, that means the whole ecosystem is dying. Therefore, if you would see that there are many countries, for example Japan, many European countries are taking the pain of doing something for the whales. They are coming to the sustainable fishing model. Although how sustainable they are, you and I both know that, but the point is, on the papers they look like sustainable, but in reality there is nothing sustainable which has been done. What is the idea of sustainable fishing? What is the idea of sustainable fishing? It is written in the SDG also, SDG 14, your Sustainable Development Goals 14, life under water. Life under water क्या कहता है? What does it states? Yes, online students, we have done that in the class. अगर आप कोई भी ओशनोग्राफी का चैप्टर पढ़ रहे हैं या फिर ओशनोग्राफी एज इन जनरल पढ़ रहे हैं, it is important to note what sustainable development goals are saying. How many sustainable development goals are there? 17, out of which when we are studying things, this 14 becomes more important. Why? Because it's talking about directly ocean life under water, right? So when I'm talking about that, I'm also talking about the health of the ecosystem. So both two things are very important to understand. For certain countries like Australia, this Great Barrier Reef provide extreme amount of revenue for them. Why? Because this Great Barrier Reef, which is situated in the northeast of the Australia, it is bringing a lot of tourists in a year for them. And if they would get destroyed, definitely they will lose lot of chunk of their revenue. They will lose out the bigger chunk of their revenue. So half of them even died. There was a case study of the Great Barrier Reef also a few days back, I think few months back in fact, that these are dying. And this is an alarming rate where we have to take an action. Okay, so this is how they have been distributed. अब what you have to do, you have to understand that coral reef का formation जो होता है islands का, how they have been done. We have discussed that 25% they are supporting, and these are the islands, right? These are the islands on which the coral reefs has been, they are made out of the complete coral reefs. They get so much hard, and please note that there are two types. The soft coral reef is also there. आपका soft coral से आपका ये नहीं बन सकता. Your islands cannot be formed out of the soft coral. Your islands would be able to will be formed only with the help of the hard corals. Okay. Right. Okay. Start writing now. Start writing small portion, and then I will take you to the another topic. लिखिए. Coral reefs. Write on the heading coral reefs. Write down. Calcium carbonate is the main material. Calcium carbonate is the main material found on the coral reefs. Found on the coral reefs, comma. Limestone is left over when Limestone is left when limestone is left over when animals grow and die. Limestone is left over when animals grow and die. This carbon containing molecule, this carbon containing molecule is the basis for coral formation, is the basis for coral formation. Next, production exhibits huge impact on ecosystem. It exhibits huge impact on ecosystem diversity. Next, coral reefs are recognized as one of the most biodiverse and economically valuable, underline the word most biodiverse and economically valuable. This intro which I am giving you, the dictation which I am giving you, this particular line can be used in the intro. आप मार्क कर लीजिए, वहां पे ये चीज आप इंट्रो में यूज कर सकते हैं, ठीक है. और आप लिख लिया करिए वहां पे इंट्रो. whenever you write an answer, 2-3 intros you recite, because पेपर के अंदर one question can come from coral reef, इससे ज्यादा नहीं है चांसेस. वन अगर आ गया वन क्वेश्चन, दैट इज मोर देन इनफ. बहुत ज्यादा चांसेस हुआ तो दो आ सकते हैं, इससे ज्यादा नहीं आ सकते. और कभी हिस्ट्री में हुआ नहीं है ऐसा कि एक ही टॉपिक से आपके कोरल रीफ से स्पेशली दो टॉपिक्स आपके ज्योग्राफी ऑप्शनल में दे कैन आस्क. इफ यू रियली वांट द एविडेंस, यू कैन सी द PYQs. ठीक है. सो डिसाइड दैट दिस इज अ बेस्ट इंट्रो दैट यू आर हैविंग. आप उसमें से सेलेक्ट करिए एंड राइट द इंट्रो ओवर देयर. राइट डाउन. Occupying less than 0.1% of the ocean floor while supporting at least 25% of 25% of marine 25% of marine species. Next, the production of calcium carbonate by calcareous hard corals is the foundation of good evening Aryan Gupta. Okay, is the foundation of, write down, is the foundation of these ecosystem. Full stop. Creating complex three-dimensional structure that provides habitat, food and shelter for hundreds of species. अब this statement makes sense. 25% support to the marine ecosystem. How? Because they are providing support, shelter, food to 25% of the marine species. Write down next. Huge impact of coral production on ecosystem. Please underline this. Write down huge impact on of coral reef formation on ecosystem. Write down. Huge impact of coral production on ecosystem. Write down the heading. Write on the first point, how are they being benefited? First point, write down. Biodiversity support. Write down first point. Biodiversity support. Biodiversity support. First point. Coral reefs are dubbed. Coral reefs are dubbed rainforest of the sea. Coral reefs are dubbed rainforest of the sea. Again, this can be used in the intro as well. They are dubbed as a rainforest of the sea because they house immense diversity of marine life. They house immense diversity of marine life, including 25 to 33%, 25 to 33% of marine fishes, 25 to 33% of marine species. Next, the structure created by coral calcification. अब calcification कैसा हो रहा है? जो corals के क्या बन रहे हैं? Calcareous deposit. So calcification you can write down. Coral calcification. The structure created by coral calcification provides crucial nooks and crannies. Crucial nooks means vital. It means vital. Crucial nooks and crannies for fishes and invertebrates. Provides crucial nooks and crannies for fishes and invertebrates. Next, write down coastal protection. Coastal protection. Write down reef structures serve as a natural barrier, comma, dissipating means releasing. They act as a third point. They act as a natural barrier, dissipating 97% of wave energy. That means if this is your coral reef and some wave is coming and this is acting as a barrier, definitely this wave will get risen up at a certain level. Why? Because there was a barrier in between, and when there is a barrier, this energy where they are going upwards, this energy can be used for converting and using. You can use it for the production of electricity. So this is, if somebody can harness this, it is one of the most important source of renewable energy. Could be, but again you would need the next gen technology for it. You would need the right equipment for it. You will need the technical know-how. Definitely, all of this is required. Okay, so write down dissipating up to 97% of wave energy, comma, protecting coastlines from storms, protecting coastline from storms, protecting coastline from storms, comma, erosion and flood damage, comma, erosion and flood damage. Next point, providing economic and social value. What kind of economic and social value? You only know that these are the plants. They are having a huge medicinal utility. So if you see that lot of oceans, they are providing the medicines, important medicines required. So they are providing definitely economic value, right? So write down economic and social value. Over, write down under the economic and social value. This is the fourth point. Write down under it, fourth point, economic and social value. economic and social value. Write down under it. Over half a billion people, over half a billion people depend on coral reefs. Over half a billion people depend on coral reefs for food, income and tourism. For food, income and tourism. For tourism, you can write the classic example of Great Barrier Reef, which is providing huge revenue to Australia every year. Every year. Right? Next, write down every year. Next, the annual net economic value of the world coral. The economic value, the annual net economic value of the world's coral is estimated, world estimated economic value of coral is $375 billion. Is $375 million. $375 million. Next point. First, write down this. They are acting as it's a good, and you can also write this example of economic value में medicines, herbs. We have a huge utility from them because a lot of medicinal values, they hold a lot of the huge medicinal value these are holding. At this point also in this. Okay. Done. Now write down next utility is carbon sequestration and nutrient cycling. How carbon sequestration? What do you mean by carbon sequestration and nutrient cycling? What do you mean by that? It acts as a carbon sink. If you are storing the carbon dioxide which is present in the environment, present in the atmosphere, then this is a carbon sequestration. You're sequestering the carbon from the atmosphere. How? By taking the CO2 level down. Now, when the coral reefs are healthy, and how they are healthy? When the corals are healthy, how they are healthy? Because they are having a symbiotic relationship, good relationship with zooxanthellae. Zooxanthellae are also doing great because they have to produce the food with the help of CO2. CO2 को यूज करके ही वो क्या प्रोड्यूस करेंगे? फूड. जब जितना ज्यादा CO2 यूज करेंगे, O2 रिलीज करेंगे. जस्ट लाइक प्लांट्स CO2 यूज कर रहे हैं, they are using the CO2. It's an act of a carbon sink. This is acting as a carbon sink. So this is an important carbon sequestration. Right? So write down carbon sequestration and nutrient cycling. Write down. While the role of organic production by reef is minimal, while the role of organic production by reef is minimal on the global scale, the biological, inorganic, precipitation, biological inorganic precipitation of carbonate by corals play a huge role in carbon cycling. In carbon cycling. Also, zooxanthellae producing the food with the help of CO2 would act as a carbon sink. It would act as a carbon sink, right? Now, write down, I will introduce some of the places where the coral reefs are present in a huge amount and how they have gone through. We will see the world distribution also and what are the conditions that they are going through these days. Now, one of the prominent features of these are that definitely your sea level rise. And why the sea level is rising? Because your climate change. There is a huge impact of the climate change on the corals formation. If 1 or 2 degree of the temperature is also increased, then also there would be a problem. For example, if I discuss this, okay, look at this. Now understand that this is one of the place which is important for the coral reefs. I have told you, Great Barrier Reef. Another important area is Florida Key. Now this is a Caribbean Sea over here. And here you are having Florida Key. This is also extremely important place for the coral reefs. If you see the spots on the world map of the coral reef, you will see a lot of concentration over this place. One of the prominent places. Now, this is also important. Now, in India, Parkway is important. Here you are having a coral reef. In Indonesia, you would see lots of coral reefs present over there. So these are the prominent places where you are having the most of the coral reef. In fact, here also, right? So we have to see where and how the world distribution of these coral reefs are and with what history they have gone through. For example, there was a huge global impact which was done on the coral reef because of certain climatic issues. So we would see that what was the issue and how mitigation was done. So let's take the first event. Write down the most recent events occurred due to coral bleaching. Right? So we would see the first event because of the coral bleaching. Write down. First is global coral bleaching event. This is the most recent one, 2023, between 2023 to 25. Between 2023 to 25. Write down the world is experiencing largest coral bleaching effects. Larger coral bleaching effects. Why? This is only because of the rise in the temperature. Any minimal rise in the temperature is going to get the coral bleaching done over an area, right? So it is important to note that the world is currently experiencing the largest coral bleaching around the world. It is the highest ever recorded with us. Second is, write down the data about 84%, underline this term, underline this data also, 84% of the global coral reefs have been affected in 80 plus countries. In 80 plus countries. Second, write down record marine heat waves. We have record marine heat waves in 2023 to 24. 23 to 24 May, why it was affected? Because of the heat waves. That was the reason. Then write down the third one, El Nino effects. What do you mean by El Nino effects? Whenever there would be an El Nino, whenever the temperature of the oceans will be more than the usual, warmer than the usual, you will have the El Nino effects, right? It is associated with droughts, and also this will make coral formation difficult. It will act as a stress for the coral formation. It will act as a stress. Now write down. We have been also seeing a lot of coral diseases associated with the formation. For example, the zooxanthellae. The zooxanthellae, they get some diseases which you call it with the name of, write down, necrotic disease. Now what this necrotic disease does? आपकी जो कैपेसिटी है फॉर द फूड फॉर्मेशन उसको क्या कर देता है? बिल्कुल कम कर देता है. When the capacity for the formation of the food, for the synthesis of the food will get minimal, so it would become very difficult for the corals to survive. कोरल फॉर्मेशन आपका डिफिकल्ट हो जाएगा, और जब कोरल फॉर्मेशन डिफिकल्ट हो जाएगा तो पूरा मरीन इकोसिस्टम के लिए डिफिकल्ट हो जाएगा टू सस्टेन. Therefore, it is important that these diseases should be minimized. One of the diseases that the scientists are studying is necrotic. Next, write down. Coral reefs have lost about coral cover. Coral reefs have lost about coral cover since 1980. Since 1980. Right? Okay. Now we will go through certain theories. Just tell me if you have any doubt from here. Then I'll introduce to you certain theories also related with the coral formation. What in the history certain scholars, certain geologists have given the theories related to the coral formation. But before that, I'm asking you if you have any doubt on this topic, then let me know. No doubt? Or clear? Sab theek hai? Good. In PYQ, I was looking at certain questions. So they directly asked about the coral bleaching. They asked about the events. What are the recent examples? Then they talked about this theory also, which I am going to discuss with you. So this theory also holds importance. Then they talked about, there was a question related to atolls I have discussed. Theory related to Darwin was there. And there was one more question which was related to the coral reef formation and how the coral reefs have been going under degradation. So for that you would need good examples. So the examples which I've given to you, that lately how the stresses have come on the corals, you can use any of them. Okay. All right. Now coral reef formation theories. Next topic that we are going to do is coral reef formation theory. Coral reefs formation theory. Now, what is this coral reef formation theory? There was a very popular person, I think you have already known his name, which is Darwin. And what he did, this theory was propounded by the Charles Darwin, wherein he was trying to figure out certain uh, proposition related to the coral reef formation, where he discovered all these phenomena in a Pacific Ocean. He went and discovered this phenomena in the specific ocean, and he searched something related to it, right? So when he was searching, he also put the evidences related to his theory. He's just not blindly and bluntly said this thing ki nahi, jaisa I am saying this is the truth. He also provided the evidences for his theory, and he said so because this other scientists were also there who were trying to put their own theory, but this is one of the most popular theory that we are having related to coral reef formation, right? So what he postulated the subsidence theory. The name of his theory was subsidence theory, and this has been asked in the PYQ. This has been asked in the PYQ. State Darwin's subsidence theory of geography optional. Just go back and see. And in the answer writing session which I am taking, in that also I have given the question. Tomorrow definitely I'll discuss this one as well. Okay. So what he said that he went on a voyage, first of all, in the Pacific Ocean, and he discovered that there is something different about these islands which have been formed. For examples, अगर हम एक लैंड कोस्ट लेते हैं, राइट, तो लैंड कोस्ट के ऊपर जो भी आपका रीफ फॉर्मेशन होता है, रीफ फॉर्मेशन मतलब दैट इफ दिस इज अ वॉल्केनो विच इज ओवर हियर, अगर यहाँ पे एक वॉल्केनो है और इस वॉल्केनो के आसपास, यहाँ पे इट इज लाइक दैट, इस वॉल्केनो के आसपास जो अटैच्ड है आपकी लैंड से, और यहाँ पे रीफ फॉर्मेशन हो रहा है, तो ये रीफ फॉर्मेशन सबसे पहली बात, इट्स नॉट हैपनिंग ओवर 1 year, इट्स नॉट हैपनिंग लाइक दैट कि आप बहुत जल्दी इसका फॉर्मेशन हो जाएगा. इट वुड टेक लॉट एंड लॉट ऑफ टाइम टू गेट फॉर्म, राइट? So it is important to understand that how these formation are been done. इसको आप ये वॉल्केनिक ना लेते हुए एक नॉर्मल लैंड कोस्ट भी ले सकते हैं, जहां पे आपका रीफ फॉर्मेशन हो रहा है. And this is one of the type of the reef, in fact. I'll get to that topic, but before that, let me just put it in a context that what I'm trying to explain to you, that this is a land coast and here you are having a reef formation. This is a land coast, this is a land boundary, and this is a reef formation. Okay, so Darwin ने क्या कहा? Please understand, coral polyps, the live organism whose skeleton accumulates to form reefs, could only grow in shallow sea. So what he analyzed, first हमने क्या पढ़ा है अभी तक कि जो रीफ फॉर्मेशंस है आपका कहाँ तक हो सकता है? सिर्फ शैलो सी में हो सकता है. शैलो सी मतलब that you can see it at a certain depth only, यहाँ तक ही, इसके डीपर वाटर्स में नहीं जाएगा. पर डार्विन ने एक बहुत ही अलग चीज देखी, that he also found the coral reefs in the deep waters as well. उसका रीजन he also gave with his theory. What he said, that he found the coral reefs in the deep waters as well, apart from the in the shallow sea. Now he tried to say, try to catch my word, from the theory named subsidence, he was trying to say that the reefs on which this coral formation has been done on certain thing, substrate, किसी के ऊपर ही बना है ना, ये coral formation हो रहा है. तो coral formation किसके थ्रू जा रहा है? Subsidence, नीचे की तरफ जा रहा है. क्यों जा रहा है, कैसे जा रहा है, we will discuss that. But one thing that he said, that it is going downwards, right? So write down first, write down, लिखिए पहले, Darwin's subsidence theory. Darwin's subsidence theory. Yes, I have given a brief introduction. You are right, Stapna. But the point is, we will also look how the Darwin explained the types of the coral reefs. I know that there are 3: fringing, atoll, and barrier. But how Darwin put it in the context, how Darwin tried to explain it, we will try to understand in that way too. Okay, write down. Darwin postulated his subsidence theory. Darwin postulated his subsidence theory in 1837, and later in 1842. In 1842, he modified his theory when he had gone. He modified his theory when he had gone on his voyage on the ship M HMS HMS Beagle. HMS Beagle. Full stop. He observed salient stages of reef extensively in Pacific Ocean. He saw and observed salient stages of reef. Stages. Please underline the word stages because I'm going to explain all these stages. Salient stages of reef. Salient stages of reef extensively in the Pacific Ocean. Next line. According to him, coral polyps, the live organism whose skeleton accumulates live organisms, coral polyps, which is a live organism. Inka skeleton means when they die, they secrete what? Calcium carbonate. Right? So write down. According to him, coral polyps, the live organism whose skeleton accumulates to form reefs, could only grow in the shallow waters. Could only grow in the shallow waters. But he also found coral reefs in the greater depth. But he also found coral reefs in the greater depth where the possibility of the coral reefs to survive, where the possibility of the coral reefs to survive is minimal. He tried to explain the presence of reef. He tried to explain the presence of reef at deeper waters, although they had formed in shallow depths. Although they have formed in shallow depths. मतलब वो ये बताना चाह रहे हैं कि how it has gone to the shallow depths. Form आपके at the deeper depths. फॉर्म आपके शैलो डेप्थ पे ही हुए हैं. फॉर्म आपका यहाँ पर ही हुआ है. But how they have gone to the deeper depth, they are trying to explain it. They have been formed over here, but how they have reached over here, that is what he was trying to tell. So I'm repeating for you. HMS Beagle, he went into Pacific Ocean. He tried to analyze, because the corals are associated and they can be only formed in the shallow depths. But on the contrary, he found something different, that he found the corals in the deeper depths as well. When he found the corals itna niche, then he was having a great curiosity to order to understand and put it in a way that everybody could understand why this particular phenomena is happening. Okay? Write down. He said that surface on which the reefs have been formed were not stationary, but they subsided gradually. But they subsided gradually. They subsided gradually. What do you mean by that? It means that जितनी भी आपका लैंड है, and लैंड के पास अगर आपका, for example, this is a volcano which is not so active, right? What is this can be used as for the formation of corals? I can use it for the formation of corals. And when the corals are being formed over here, I will only take the coast. I will only take the narrow edge of it. Suppose here you are having a water, and over a period of time, what would happen? This, wherein the corals are being formed at the coastline, adjacent to the coastline, or adjacent to this land. I can call this as fringing reef. This is a type of a reef. This is a fringing reef. What is the characteristic? What is the definition of fringing reef? That they would be always formed. They would be always formed at the always formed adjacent to the land. They will be always formed adjacent to the land. Or sometimes they would have very narrow lagoon. Even if they are having, they would have very narrow lagoon. Right? So this is what that they are having a adjacent reefs which have been formed. Now, over a period of time, not talking in months, not talking in years, over a period of time, this would get submerged. This would get submerged. Now, volcanic activities cannot happen. This is not an active volcano. ये uplift नहीं होगा, ऊपर की तरफ नहीं जाएगा, ये active नहीं है. So this would eventually get submerged because of erosion, because of other activity. It would get submerged. जब ये submerged होगा तो क्या होगा? What is the next stage that would be formed? अगर ये submerged हो रहा है, so there would be a little depression which would come in between. There would be a little depression which would come in between. For example, this is a submergence part. ये देखिए. और ये आपका वही रीफ है. ये सबमर्ज हो रहा है, ये लैंड का पार्ट है. अभी सबमर्ज हो रहा है और ये क्या हो रहा है? दिस इज योर रीफ ओनली. यू वुड सी कि जो डिस्टेंस था इसमें और इसमें बढ़ गया है, और यहाँ पे क्या है? वाटर है. दिस इज योर लगून. इसको बोलेंगे बैरियर रीफ. ये रीफ है आपका. दिस इज योर सी, दिस इज योर वाटर, रिवर वाटर. दिस इज कॉल्ड एज अ टाइप barrier reef. Okay, and slowly and gradually over many years, what will happen? This will further get away from there. The moment it will get away from there, और ज्यादा सबसाइड होगा, इससे अलग हो जाएगा, और सेकेंड स्टेज में और सबसाइड हो जाएगा, अलग हो जाएगा, और सबसाइड होगा, अलग ही बन जाएगा, और यहाँ पे बीच में आ जाएगा डिप्रेशन टाइप लगून, और ये हो गया आपका सी. This is called atoll. So this theory was, although we do GS के अंदर हम सिर्फ simple पढ़ते हैं, there are 3 types: fringing, barrier and atoll. But this description how I am explaining to you has been given by Darwin. ये डार्विन ने explain किया था कि इस तरह से this is how the things are formed from the fringing to atoll. And he has given the description also of it कि why such phenomena is happening, क्यों हो रहा है ऐसा, उसका भी इन्होंने description दिया था. ठीक है. Now take your time and let me know if you have understood this. Understood everyone? Clear? Shall we write more about it? The way I have explained you, I will be just dictating that what else needs to be written over there. ठीक है. अब यही चीज जो मैंने आपको explain करी है, you have to put it in words. देखिए, write down. Darwin theory starts with a volcanic island which becomes extinct. It starts with volcanic island which becomes extinct. Again repeating. Darwin theory starts with a volcanic island which becomes extinct. At the beginning, coral polyps attach themselves. At the beginning, coral polyps attach themselves to suitable, shallow सबमरीन प्लेटफॉर्म. शैलो सबमरीन प्लेटफॉर्म किसको बोल रहे हैं? इसको, जो देखिए सबमरीन मींस जो आपका which has been submerged like this. This is a extinct volcano. This is a submarine. This is submarine. So this is what they are saying. यहाँ आपका coral polyps बनेगा. ठीक है. Write down. At the beginning of coral polyps attach themselves to suitable flat shallow submarine platforms अराउंड वॉल्केनिक आइलैंड. अब लैंड कोस्ट आपने वॉल्केनो लिया है, वॉल्केनो को ही आप क्या मान रहे हैं? लैंड. ठीक है. एंड ग्रोज वर्टिकली अपवर्ड एंड फ्लैट शैलो सबमरीन प्लेटफॉर्म अराउंड अ वॉल्केनिक आइलैंड and grows vertically upward. The reef adjacent to land, the reef adjacent to land is called, the reef adjacent to land is called fringing reef. It is called fringing reef. Now write down the definition of fringing reef. What are actually fringing reef? You should know that. देखिए, fringing reef grow near the coastline. अब इसको coastline ही बोल सकते हैं. किसी भी लैंड का कोस्टलाइन ले लीजिए, उसके ही एडजेसेंट में ग्रो करेगा, उसको आप फ्रिंजिंग रीफ बोलोगे सिंपल टर्म्स में. फ्रिंजिंग रीफ ग्रोज नियर द कोस्टलाइन अराउंड द आइलैंड. और अगर प्रेजेंट भी होगा लगून तो बहुत ही नैरो, बहुत ही छोटा सा प्रेजेंट होगा, नेग्लिजिबल टाइप्स. So you can write down if you want to coastlines between them around island and coastlines between them and the shore. This is the shore, this is the coastline, and the coastline between them and the shore is narrow and shallow lagoon. Is narrow and shallow lagoon. Next, fringing reef are the most common types of reefs. Fringing reefs are most common types of reefs which are found in write down Philippines. सबसे ज़्यादा कहाँ मिलेंगे आपको fringing reefs? Philippines में. You will find this type of reefs. You can mark in the world map also if you are having. Fringing reefs are found mainly in Philippines island, then Indonesia, then Timor-Leste. Indonesia here, and there is a small island, Timor-Leste. Timor-Leste has recently been a part of the Asian country, right? This was in current affairs. So it is, write down Timor-Leste. Next, western coast of Australia. Western coast of Australia. Can you see this whole zone is having a fringing type of reef? Can I consider this whole zone is having a fringing type of reef? उसके अलावा reef कहाँ पे मिलेगा आपको? Just look here. You will also get in the Red Sea. Red Sea में भी आपको कहाँ मिलेगा? You will find fringing reef. Write down the example Red Sea. Next, write down East Africa, and then Caribbean Sea. East Africa here near Seychelles and Maldives here, Mauritius. East Africa, and here you will also find in Caribbean Sea. Everywhere here with the places which are marked over here on the world map, यहाँ पे सारी जगह आपको क्या मिलेगा? Fringing reef. You will find fringing reef over there. Just look and make it and draw it on the map if you are having, if you are carrying it. So draw कर लीजिए. Written everyone? Write down next. Next लिखेंगे barrier reef. Write about barrier reef. Write down. A barrier reef forms continuation of the Darwin theory only. Write down. A barrier reef forms as the oceanic islands. Barrier reef forms as the oceanic islands begin to sink. Barrier reef forms as the oceanic islands begin to sink into the Earth's crust due to किस रीजन से वो सिंक करेगा ड्यू टू एब्सेंस ऑफ वॉल्केनिक आइलैंड बिल्डिंग फोर्सेस बिकॉज ये एक्सटिंक्ट हो चुका है अब राइट एंड देयर आर नो active tectonic activities taking place so what it will go under it will further submerge ठीक है so write down there is absence of volcanic island building processes b added weight of coral reefs. That is also one of the reasons that your coral reefs is also having a weight. So because of the weight of the coral reef, this would get submerged. Okay? Write down added weight of the coral reefs. C. Erosion at the surface of island. C. Erosion at the surface of the island. Erosion at the surface of the island. Next, as the island sinks, coral reefs continues to go vertically upwards. ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर coral reefs नीचे submerge कर रही है तो they are not growing. They are doing their own work because they have the habit of growing in the shallow waters. So the way they are submerging right down, as the island sinks, coral reefs continues to go vertically upwards. Okay. Write down next. Write down next the definition of barrier reef. Write down next barrier reef का definition. ये आपका it has been explained by the Darwin. लेकिन आपको general definition भी लिखना है barrier reef का. Write down the definition of barrier reef. Write down. When the lagoons become wider between land coast and reef, between land coast and reef acting as a barrier when the person is going towards land. This is known as barrier reef, right? Assume that this is your land coast. Here would be your water. This is your reef. ये आपका reef है, show with a different pen. ये आपका reef है और ये आपका sea है. So see how this is acting as a barrier. This is your land, right? So you are having a barrier reef. This is a kind of a barrier reef that has been shown over here. Okay. Clear everyone? Okay. Write down next atolls. Write down next type that we are doing is write down atolls. First, you have to see how the atolls are being formed. Atolls are being formed in the middle of the sea. ठीक है? कैसा दिखेगा? How would it look like? Form in the middle of the sea. Here would be a depression, and here would you will have the sea. It will be very far away from the coast. ठीक है, लिखिए, write down about atolls. Write down. Atoll is a ring-shaped coral reef. Can you see this ring shape? It is a ring-shaped coral reef from an island or series of islands or series of islets that encircle a central lagoon. That encircle a central lagoon. बीच में आपका क्या है? This is your lagoon. Here you are having a reef, and this is your ocean. So basically, a depression has been created between. साइड में आपका लगून है, साइड में आपका रीफ फॉर्मेशन है, एंड देन यू आर हैविंग अ ओशन, राइट? So write down atoll is a ring-shaped coral reef, island or series of islets that encircles a central lagoon, usually found in tropical and warm tropical areas. Usually found in tropical and warm tropical areas. These reefs takes millions of years for the formation. This reefs takes millions of years for the formation. And these are primary in Pacific and Indian Oceans. These are primary in Pacific and Indian Ocean. Right? Now, all these types of reefs that you have seen, इतने ही types के reef हैं आपके. One is your fringing reef, one is your atoll, one is your fringing, one is your atoll. I would take barrier first, then atoll. So all of them go under the process of bleaching. All of them go under the process of bleaching. Now bleaching, I have explained you that whenever they expel zooxanthellae, जब भी zooxanthellae को अपने से अलग कर देंगे, they won't be able to survive. उनका color भी white हो जाएगा, right? The moment they turn white, we know that they are not in a position, they are dead now. So what are the main reasons for it? क्या क्या reasons हैं? Obviously, one reason is a climate change. Whenever there would be a climate change, there would be an increase in the temperature. Temperature increases by how much? 1 degree, 2 degree. They won't be able to sustain water ka temperature, right? And because of the climate change, the sea level rises also changes. Because of the sea level changes, this further affects the formation of the corals, right? Next, they are going under the process of oceanic acidification. और ये oceanic acidification भी किससे related है? This is straight away related from the climate change. Climate change का मतलब क्या है? That is CO2 level are been increased in the atmosphere. और जब CO2 level increase हो गया, so this water will have more of a CO2, right? When they will have more of CO2, this will react with the water and it would further release carbonic acid and H plus ions. अब H प्लस आयंस किसी भी जगह बढ़ जाएगा तो उसका एसिडिक वैल्यू वहां पे बढ़ जाएगा. तो एसिडिफिकेशन अगर ज्यादा हो गया, विच इज नॉट गुड फॉर द ओशंस, राइट? व्हाई? बिकॉज दे वुड कंज्यूम lot of what they will consume, the nutrients which are required. So all of this will not be done. And when the acidification is increasing, it is also problematic for the corals, since corals need what? The calcification process will be also slowed, right? They will get slowed down. So oceanic acidification, rise of CO2 level, definitely acidity of the water will increase, and this inhibits to create corals skeletons, calcification. Okay, coral creates calcareous deposits, right? Now if the solar radiation would increase, अब climate change हो रहा है तो solar radiation से related है. When the solar radiation would increase, it would further affect the polyps, corals, कैसे अफेक्ट करेगा? दे वुड नॉट बी एबल टू थ्राइव वेल. टेम्परेचर ज्यादा हो गया, दे आर सेंसिटिव टू द एक्सट्रीम टेम्परेचर्स. व्हेन द टेम्परेचर गेट्स टू मच, दे वोंट बी एबल टू सर्वाइव. तो सोलर रेडिएशन इज ऑल्सो रिलेटेड. अगर इंसोलेशन ज्यादा होगा तो इट इज ऑल्सो related to more of cloud cover, more precipitation, or precipitation भी ज़्यादा. So anything in excess anywhere will affect the coral formation. Next is the chemical pollution. Chemical pollution how? जो भी आप fertilizers use कर रहे हैं soil के अंदर, harmful fertilizers, chemical fertilizers, all of these which are using and they are finally getting discharged into the water, it will have an effect. So chemical pollution will further create problem. Why? Because आपका ये जो chemical pollution है, this would also need oxygen. जब भी कोई chemical pollution जाएगा वो भी react करेगा, उसको भी oxygen चाहिए. So the oxygen for the zooxanthellae and the other oxygen for the other organism would become less, right? And when it becomes less, it also becomes important for them to understand कि ये आपका ऑक्सीजन तो उतना ही है जितना होना चाहिए आपके इकोसिस्टम के अंदर. अब too many people are dependent on one thing, so what would happen? Demands would not be met, so there would be scarcity, and therefore the chemical pollution is one of the most detrimental point for the corals, right? So understand, increased nutrient concentration affects corals by promoting phytoplankton growth. एक चीज और करता है केमिकल पोल्यूशन, जब पोल्यूशन इंक्रीज होता है तो फाइटोप्लैंक्टन्स बहुत इंक्रीज हो जाते हैं. अब जो फाइटोप्लैंक्टन्स क्या है? These are another species of the oceans, of the sea. They are also produces their own food through the help of light. Phyto means light. Light के through अपना food produce कर रहे हैं. अब these would also need CO2. Zooxanthellae also need CO2. So there would be a clash. Right? More of phytoplanktons, more it would be difficult for zooxanthellae to survive because they both need. They are dependent. They are synthesizing their own food. They would have problem. Okay. Okay, so they would be competing for the space. They would be competing in the ocean for their space, right? Next is increased sedimentation. Now, these all types of reefs are going under increased sedimentation. Why sedimentation? Because there are many activities, industrial activities which is taking place, right? All the urbanization which is taking place at the coast also. हमने देखा होगा that we have the regulation in India where we have divided the areas and we have tried to stop it. The construction where it is very much what detrimental for the people and for the ecosystem as a whole. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to save them. Okay. So what you have to understand here, you have to understand that आपका sedimentation जहाँ पे भी होगा, वहाँ पे problem आएगा. क्यों? Because आपका nitrates etc. all the nutrients which are coming and with the sediment cells, it will smother the corals. अगर smother कर देंगे coral को which are very sensitive, they won't be able to thrive, right? Then it reduces the light availability. अगर आप smother कर देंगे तो light नहीं पहुंच पाएगी, तो zooxanthellae नहीं survive कर पाएंगे. Next, human induced threats would be there. Human induced threats कैसे होगा? जैसे आपका pollution है, वैसे humans क्या करते हैं? Humans they try to, this is, you can also categorize under the anthropogenic activity. Highly sensitive areas के अंदर जाना for their own expeditions, for their own researches, where you are harming some areas. For example, if you are doing some kind of experiment, or maybe submarines, ये सब, this is ultimately doing what? You are getting into the territory of corals. जहाँ पे corals हैं, वहाँ पे जाके you are disturbing them. So when the pollution is there, when you are disturbing them, this will create some sort of issues. Degradation. right? Your anthropogenic activities like industrialization. All this is detrimental, right? So overfishing is also one of them. आप नेट्स यूज कर रहे हैं, ओवर फिशिंग कर रहे हैं, वो भी एक बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. You cannot use the resources more than required. Okay, you have to give them time to get replenished. अगर आप ओवर फिशिंग कर रहे हैं तो it will also ultimately get to the coral formation. Industrialization is one. Using the chemical fertilization is another. Then you are having coral minings. Lot of teams and lot of countries are also doing the coral mining because, as I told you, they have the huge medicinal values. And not only values, they economic value भी उनका ज़्यादा है, and they try to keep on researching on that. This is called the coral mining, which is also not good. Next, industrial area, coral ecosystem would get definitely affected through that, right? Oil spills जो आपके हो जाते हैं when you are taking the oils, marine pollution जो हो रहा है, what is oil spill? Your tanker spill. Whenever you are taking a tanker, your oils are getting discharged, and there is nobody who is taking care of that. There is a concept that we have done of high sea treaty. High sea treaty is beyond exclusive economic zone, which is not under the sovereignty and jurisdiction of any country. It is under what? It is under the international institution, and they have to take care. But अगर कोई country वहां से जा रहा है, there is oil spilling has been done. Is anybody taking care of it? No. Why? Why they are not taking care of it? Because this is not lying under their jurisdiction, and there are no prominent laws also on that. So they do not know how to address it. But अब हमारे पास है high sea treaty. We do have now BBNJ, which is biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction that we have discussed. Okay, all these points you can write in this. Right, I'll give the detailed notes definitely on the coral bleaching. I'll also give the mitigation strategy in the next class. Obviously, I've just explained you the whole part. I've given you the overview of it, that how the coral bleaching has been done, oceanic acidification, crystallization, etc. But mitigation strategies also we will do. We'll also see how the different countries are addressing this issue, so that we should know that mitigation strategies across the world, not only with respect to India, because these mitigation strategies has to be applied across the world. If in one country it is getting successful, then definitely in the other parts of the world also it can be applied, right? All right. So online students, if you are having any doubt, let me know. Clear? All right. Now what you have to do in assignment, you have to take one question, take the question of subsidence theory, right? Which is your Darwin subsidence theory. Take that and do it. ठीक है, आपको करना है डार्विन का subsidence theory. There is a question which has been there. Okay, I'll give that question only to you. That would be better. Write down the question. लिखिए P by Q. There is a P by Q question on Darwin. Write down. Okay. Write down. State the subsidence theory of Darwin. State the subsidence theory of Darwin. And explain the evidences given in support of it. And explain the evidences given in support of it. Right? This is one question which is a PYQ question that you have to do, right? Thank you so much, class. We'll meet you in the next with another topic of oceanography. Thank you so much.